Welcome friends in this lecture of soil science and technology, and today we'll try to finish the soil classification. So we'll start from the slide where we left in the last lecture. So in the last lecture we were talking about different vertisols and what are the important characteristics of vertisols. So we discussed that vertisols basically forms white cracks during the dry season, and they swell during the wet season. So these property is called swelling and shrinkage property, and these are very important property as far as the vertisol properties are concerned. Now another important feature is called slick and slide, and let us see what is slick and slide. Now as I have told you, during the dry season in the vertisoil they develop these larger cracks, and in these larger cracks the surface soil particles they generally move due to different types of wind actions or different types of animal actions, and then they seal these cracks. Now during the rainy season or during the wet season, when water moves down to these cracks, and when they move down to the cracks and they fill these cracks, the soil which are present in these cracks swells, and as a result of swelling, there will be these as a result of swelling the soil volumes increases. So since the soil volumes increases, this excessive soil tries to go in this way, and it produces a pressure from both the sides to puts both the sides and tries to protrude out, and as a result of that there will be some features, oblique features. These are present in oblique angles, and we call it slick and slide. And this excessive, due to the sealing action of water in the vertisoil, the excessive volume, due to the excess volume of the soil, the excess soil material tries to move out in two opposite direction, and as a result of that in the BSS horizons there will be some shiny characteristics, and these shiny features which are present in oblique angles are called slick and slides. And as a result of these type of clay movement and this sealing action, there will be some ephemeral lakes which are formed at the surface. We call it Gilgai relief. So swelling and shrinkage property, slick and slide, and these Gilgai micro relief are important features of vertisols, and you will see these features when you visit this particular type of soil, specifically the black cotton soil of Maharashtra. Obviously you can see the slick and slide features. These are shiny features present in vertisols. Now let us see what is oxysols. Oxysols are deeply weathered soils of humid tropics with brick red color, and basically they are dominated by kaolinite and sesquioxide. You know, the sesquioxide basically the combination of iron and aluminum oxides, and basically we do not see this type of soils very much in India. Another important soil is called altisols. Now it is basically highly weathered soil which are base poor, and they generally occur in humid tropical climate where higher temperature and rainfall is there. And obviously, as the name, as I have told you, it shows basically advanced stages of weathering, and it occurs in southern India and northeastern regions of India. Alphisol is another important soil order which is widely distributed in India, and alphisol contains the argillic horizon, which you can see there is a clear evidence of elevation and alluviation, and as you can see in this soil there is a clear alluvial horizon and clear alluvial horizon where elevation of clay, that means movement and deposition of clay at bottom portion of the profile is quite evident, and these soils are more weathered than inceptisol but less than the altisols, and as I have already told you, they are widely distributed in Indian condition. So, what is the next one? The next one is called spodosols. The spodosols are cool humid climate. They generally form in cool and humid climate with siliceous parent materials. They show basically an alluvial horizon of sesquioxide oxide and humus forms under a wood ash color alluvial E horizon. Now you can see clearly evident that is an alluvial E horizon, wood ash colored, and because they are characterized by this spodic horizon, and this spodic horizon is showing all the iron and aluminum oxide have moved downwards, leaving behind only the siliceous materials. So that is why they are forming this wood ash color horizon or alluvial horizon, and they are generally not reported in India. Mollysols are characterized by the presence of mollicapedon. They are dark color and they are generally formed in grassland and forest vegetation area. And in India, you will see that this type of soils are basically present in Terai region of Uttarakhand and some other states. Now, since we have covered the orders, let us see what are the suborders. Now, soil within each order are grouped into suborders on the basis of soil properties that reflect major environment controls on current weather forming process. So, you will see whether there are specific specific weather impact or not, that can be found from the suborder name. Now, many suborders are indicative of the moisture regime or less frequently the temperature regime under which the soils are formed. Let us see some examples. For example, you can see here I have given here a table which shows different formative element and different connotations of formative element. For example, if we use ALB, that basically shows presence of a albic horizon, which it is a bleach alluvial horizon, which I have already told you. For example, if you take A5BR, which shows which is derived from the fiber, and basically it shows the least decomposed stages of organic matter. Let us take UD, which comes from humid, and it shows the influence of humid climate. So on and so forth, you can see based on different formative elements, it is quite clear what are the different environmental conditions which are prevalent for forming that particular soil type. Now, I have shown here one example. Let us take an example of inceptisol. Now, remember that in case of inceptisol, whenever we are talking about inceptisol, the formative element is EPT. So, when we will see something like EPT, that basically shows inceptisols. So, this EPT is basically representing the major soil order, and before the EPT you can see these formative elements AQU, CRY, GEL, UD, UST and XER. Now, AQ is basically showing wet condition, CRY is basically showing very cold condition, gel, gelic parent material, that means in the permafrost condition. So, it is permafrost, it is showing permafrost characteristics. UDIC is humid climate, which is shown humid influence, humid climate influence. Eustic is semi-arid. So, these formative elements are coming from the influence of different types of soil moisture regime. Okay. So let us, since we have covered the suborder, let us see what is grade groups. Now, the grade groups are subdivision of suborders, and more than 400 grade groups are already recognized so far, and they are defined largely by the presence and absence of diagnostic horizons and the arrangement of those horizons. For example, you can see here mollisol. So, mollisol here is the order. So, the suborder is aquoles. So, OLL basically the formative element of mollisol, and AQU is basically showing the formative element. So, it is basically totally it is the suborder. The grade group is RG aquoles. So, you can see from the name that it is these grade group showing the presence of argillic horizon. Now, this argillic horizon is very important, as I have already told you, it is an important endopedon. So, this grade group, as the name suggests, is showing the presence of a specific horizon. In this case, it is a argillic horizon. So, as the name suggests, they are defined largely by the presence and absence of diagnostic horizons and the arrangement of those horizons. So, these table shows the different formative elements and and their connotation. For example, if you can see ACR is showing extremely weathering, and then AL showing high aluminum and low iron. So, you can see these are SULF is showing the presence of sulfuric horizon, the PLA GG is showing the Plagen horizon. So, based on the presence or absence of a particular subsurface or diagnostic horizon, they are naming different types of grade groups. So, let us see an example of grade groups names for selected suborder in the mollisol and ultisol orders. So, if you see in case of mollisol, let us consider mollisols. So, first of all, this is aquoles. Aquoles is a suborder, and argillic, when there is a presence of RG aquoles, it is a grade group example. Eudols, it is a suborder, then RG eudols. Eustols, which showing dry, which is basically implying the dry condition, RG eustols. Xerols, Mediterranean climate, RG xerols. So, it is an example of grade group which is present in mollisols. Similarly, you will find in case of ultisols also. So, this basically shows. So, let us concise. So, the most the highest category is order. From the order we are getting the suborder, which are basically showing the influence of specific weathering condition or soil moisture regime, and below the suborder there is a grade group which is showing the presence and absence of a particular type of horizon. So, we have finished this grade group. Let us see subgroup. So, subgroup are subdivision of grade groups, and more than 2600 subgroups are recognized so far, and the central concept of a grade group makes one subgroup termed typic. For example, as you can see here, in our case we call a subgroup called typic RG aquoles. Now, typic RG aquoles is basically or showing typifying the RG aquole grade group. So, the central concept of a grade group makes up one subgroup. So, in that case we generally use this typic. Sometime we use intergrades and extra grades when there is a mixed characteristics. So, here I have given one more example called typic haploidols, and this subgroup basically typifies the haploidols grade group. So, this shows why what is the meaning of subgroup and how we can segregate when we are getting a big name into different subgroup, grade group, and suborder and individual orders. The next category is families. So within a subgroup, soil falls into particular family, so at a particular depth, and they have similar physical and chemical properties affecting the growth of the plants. And there are about 8,000 families have been identified, and the criteria used include broad classes of particle size, mineralogy, catenation capacity of the clay, temperature. So let us see in the next slide. I mean, when we are defining the soil family based on particle size classes, you can see there are different classes like ashy, fragment, sandy, skeletal, sandy, loamy, clayey, fine silty, and fine loamy. When mineralogy class, based on the mineralogy class also, mixed, and then micaceous, then siliceous. Based on the catenation capacity also, that means how much cation a particular soil can exchange from its surrounding medium. We have it can be divided into superactive, active, semi-active, and subactive based on the percentage of catenation capacity. So you can see based on particle size, mineralogy, catenation capacity, and soil temperature regime classes, we can differentiate different types of soil families. So soil family basically consider all these measurable soil properties. Now finally, the soil series. The soil series category is the most specific unit of the classification system, and remember that it is a subdivision of the family, and each series is defined by a specific range of soil property. For example, let us take an example of a Kokomo soil series. Now, how in this total soil, in this total soils classification system, how we can define a Kokomo soil series? So let us start with the soil, and obviously it comes within the mollisol. So from mollisols is the major order. From there we are going to suborder, that is aquoles, then grade groups, that is RG aquoles. After that subgroup, that is typic RG aquoles, and finally fine, mixed, superactive, mesic, typic RG aquoles, and finally we are getting the name of Kokomo. So the Kokomo series is defined by this total family name, and it is specifically defined by some measurable properties. For example, fine, mixed, superactive, mesic. These are characteristics, as I have already told you, these are characteristics of a family name. And then typic is basically typifying these RG aquoles grade group. So it is a subgroup, typic RG aquoles, and then RG aquole is the grade group which is showing the presence of argillic horizons. Aquoles is the suborder which is showing the presence of aqueic moisture regime, and OLL basically showing the presence of soil order, that is mollisol. So that is how we can define each and every soil of the world into some systematic nature, into some systematic way, using these individual criteria or individual categories. 6 different categories. Again, soil series is the most specific, and then soil family, then subgroup, grade group, order, and finally soil orders. So we have finished the soil classification system, and I hope that you have got a basic overview of soil classification, and what are the basic basic features of soil taxonomy, and what are the how we can define or how we can name a particular type of soil. So we have finished this soil classification. So let us start a new topic, that is soil color and soil texture. So, soil color is basically indirectly tells us about different types of soil properties. It tells us about the soil moisture, it tells us about the percentage organic carbon and so on and so forth. And soil color is a very important soil property, and it helps us to identify several soil, it helps us to to make inference on soil quality sometimes. So, how we generally measure soil color in the field? Now, generally soil color measurement in the field is done based on a chart, color chart called Munsell soil color chart. And this Munsell soil color chart helps in precise and repeatable interpretation of soil color. And these Munsell soil color chart basically relies on three important criteria of color. One is called hue, another is called value, another is chroma. Now, in the next slide we will see what are they, what these terms actually represent. So, in the Munsell soil color chart, it is basically a book. So, if you open the book, you will see several pages with different chips of color. So, these color chips basically indicates the soil color, and based on the proper matching of our soil with these color chips, we basically name that particular soil. So, if you open up a Munsell soil color chart, a particular page, you will see this type of notations. You can see here 2.5 YR. So, this is called hue. Hue basically shows redness or yellowness of a soil, or in other words, it is based on the dominant spectral color. So, hue basically shows the redness and yellowness of a soil and basically represent dominant spectral color. The second one, so here 2.5R is a specific hue which is shows somewhat integrate between yellow redness, yellowish and redness, and you will also find another criteria called value, another variable called value, and obviously value will be increasing from as you can see in this Munsell soil color chart, value will be increasing from bottom towards the top. So, you can see 2.5 and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So, basically value shows the degree of lightness and brightness. So, lower values basically indicates darkness and higher values basically indicates brightness of a soil. And the third criteria is called chroma, which is showing the intensity or brightness, or in other words the purity of the color. So, the chroma increases from 1 to 8 and it increases from this side to this side. So, left to right. So, as you can see, we are increasing the chroma, the purity of the color is somewhat decreasing. So, these basically shows using these three different categories or three different variables, we can define a particular soil color. For example, if we define, as I have shown you, if we name any soil color as 2.5 YR 4/4, that basically says that this soil has a hue of 2.5 YR with a value of 4 and a chroma of 4. So, basically when it takes out a particular chip, particular soil particle, some soil, we generally measure, we generally compare the soil color with individual chips, and from these individual chips we identify what is their actual hue, what is the value and what is the chroma, and based on that we name the individual soil color. So, I hope that now it is clear how we how we name different soil color. So, let us see what are the basic implication of soil color. Now, different factors influence soil color. For example, based on the percentage of organic matter content, soil color would be different. Water content plays an important role in soil color. So, that is why whenever you are measuring the soil color, it is almost important to write down the wetness condition, and also presence and oxidation states of iron and manganese oxides are very important from the soil color point of view. So, as you can see, more organic matter is showing darker soil color or low value here, and also in the rightmost picture, in this picture we can see more water. The left picture is showing more organic matter, showing the darker soil and low value, and the rightmost picture is showing the more water, which is creating darker soil color of low value. So, it is very important. The soil color shows a snapshot of soil organic matter as well as soil moisture percentage. Here you can see based on different types of oxidation reduction stage. So, obviously here these are oxidized zone and these are reduced zone, as you can see from the color difference. So, red and brown are basically showing iron in oxidized form or high chroma, and grey and blue zones just like these are showing the ions in reduced form or low chroma. So, based on this oxidation reduction of iron also, the color varies and their value and their chroma also varies. So, you can see there are two different types of soil, one is glade soil and mollicapipedon. Now, glade soil basically showing the moisture or waterlogged soils. So, these are showing different colors, and mollicapipedon are very dark in color, and obviously the presence of high organic matter has a great impact on their color. So, in case of warm and reddish soil, tropical, dark grey and browns, and all the soils are showing different types of soil color based on different climatic conditions. And what is the importance of soil color? Obviously, the soil color are used as an diagnostic criterion for classifying soil, and obviously they are important aesthetic components of the landscape, because most of the red soils are most of the soils which are dominated by iron and aluminum oxides are showing red color. So, it is very important to examine the soil color before we go for other soil physical property measurement. And again, soil color shows a snapshot of different properties, and it helps us to interpret different soil properties, specifically the presence of organic matter or moisture. And there are nowadays scientists have developed several image based cheaper image based instruments which are helpful for quantitative estimation of soil color, because using the Munsell soil color chart, it is kind of qualitative and it is subjective, because it depends on the perspective of the investigator who is giving the name. But nowadays we have soil scientists have developed several cheap image based soil sensors which can quantitatively measure different soil colors, and using this quantitative measurement of soil color, they can predict different soil properties, specifically soil organic matter. So, let us wrap up here, and from the next lecture we will be starting soil texture, and then we will be covering soil structure. Thank you very much.